The greenhouse was one of Boston's most elegant brunch spots. All floor-to-ceiling windows, imported Italian marble and a waiting list that stretched 6 months. My mother's 50th birthday celebration was being held in their private dining room, where 18 family members gathered around a table laden with champagne, fresh flowers, and pastries that cost more per piece than most people spent on entire meals. I sat at the far end of the table in my usual spot, the overflow seat near the door where waiters passed constantly. My outfit was simple: black jeans, a white button-down shirt, and comfortable flats. The same kind of thing I wore to work at the bookstore I managed in Cambridge. Well, that's what my family thought I did. My brother Derek held court at the center of the table, regaling everyone with stories about his tech startup. He was 32, perpetually on the verge of his big break, and had been living off our parents' generosity for the past decade while building companies that never quite materialized into success. So the venture capital firm is very interested, he was saying, gesturing with his mimosa glass. They're talking about a Series A round of $5 million. Can you imagine? $5 million for my idea. That's wonderful, honey, Mom said, beaming at her golden child. I always knew you'd make it big. My sister, Jennifer, sat beside him with her husband, Todd. She was a corporate attorney at a prestigious firm, constantly dropping names of important clients and high-profile cases. Her 3-year-old daughter, Lily, sat in a high chair, throwing pieces of croissant on the floor. Then there was me. Sarah Mitchell, 29 years old, the family's cautionary tale. Sarah, you're so quiet down there, Jennifer called out. How's the bookstore? It's good. Busy season with the holidays coming up. Derek laughed. Busy season at a bookstore. That's adorable. Do you guys still sell like actual physical books, or is it all coffee mugs and greeting cards now? Several people at the table chuckled. We sell books, I said calmly. And yes, people still read them. I'm sure they do, Derek said in that patronizing tone he'd perfected over the years. It's just funny thinking about you standing behind a cash register at 29 while the rest of us are building careers. No judgment, of course. Someone has to work retail. Mom jumped in quickly, her voice bright with forced enthusiasm. Sarah loves her bookstore job. She's always been more artistic. Not everyone needs to chase money and success. Right, Jennifer agreed. Some people are just happy with simple lives. Nothing wrong with that. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. Let them think what they wanted. My Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, leaned forward. Sarah, honey, are you at least thinking about going back to school? Maybe getting a business degree? It's never too late to improve your prospects. I'm happy where I am, Aunt Carol. But wouldn't you want more? She pressed. A better job, a nicer apartment, the ability to travel and enjoy life? I travel plenty. Derek snorted. What, day trips to New Hampshire? Something like that. The conversation moved on, as it always did, to more important topics. Derek's startup. Jennifer's latest case. My cousin Michael's promotion at his consulting firm. I faded into the background the way I always did at family gatherings. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my CFO, David. Markets open in 30 minutes. Everything's on track. You ready for this? I typed back, ready. Keep me posted. Another text, this one from my executive assistant, Amanda. Cnbc confirmed they're covering the IPO in their 10 a.m. market report. They're calling it one of the biggest tech IPOs of the quarter. Congratulations, Sarah. Today changes everything. I glanced at my watch. 9:47 a.m. 13 minutes until the markets opened and Phoenix Digital Solutions, my company, began trading on the NASDAQ. Sarah, are you listening? Mom's voice cut through my thoughts. Sorry, what? I asked if you're seeing anyone. You're almost 30. Shouldn't you be thinking about settling down? I'm focused on work right now, Mom. Derek laughed so hard he nearly spit out his mimosa. Focused on work? Sarah, you work at a bookstore. How much focus does that require? Would you like a receipt? That'll be $24.95. Come on. The table erupted in laughter. Even my father, who usually stayed out of these conversations, was smiling. Derek, that's enough, Mom said, but she was still laughing. Though he has a point, sweetie. Maybe it's time to think bigger. Derek could probably help you get an interview at a real company. Couldn't you, honey? Sure, Derek said magnanimously. I know people. I could make some calls. Get you an entry-level position somewhere. Probably wouldn't pay much more than the bookstore, but at least you'd have a title that sounds impressive. That's kind of you, I said evenly. But I'm fine. You say that now, but in 10 years you'll regret not having built a career. Trust me. I'm trying to help you, Sarah. Jennifer nodded. He's right. You should take advantage of family connections while you have them. Once Derek's company takes off, he's going to be too busy to help. I checked my watch again. 9:52 a.m. 8 minutes. The waiters brought out the main course. Eggs Benedict, smoked salmon, French toast, fresh fruit. The restaurant's signature brunch spread. I'd eaten here before many times, usually in meetings with investors or potential acquisition targets. The owner, Marcus, was a friend. He'd been one of my first investors when I was raising seed money 7 years ago. I propose a toast, my father said, standing up with his champagne glass. To my beautiful wife, Helen, on her 50th birthday. You've given me 30 years of happiness, 3 wonderful children, and more joy than any man deserves. Happy birthday, darling. To Mom. Everyone chorused, clinking glasses. I raised my water glass. I never drank before 11 a.m. on business days, and smiled. Speech, Helen, someone called out. Mom stood, dabbing at her eyes with her napkin. Thank you all for being here. 50 years old, I can hardly believe it. I look around this table and see my family, my legacy. Derek with his brilliant mind and entrepreneurial spirit. Jennifer with her successful career and beautiful daughter. And Sarah. She paused, and I could see her searching for something positive to say about her disappointing youngest child. Sarah, who has always marched to her own drum. We may not always understand your choices, sweetheart, but we love you anyway. The table applauded. I smiled and nodded, accepting the backhanded compliment with practiced grace. 9:57 a.m. My phone buzzed again. David, 3 minutes. Stock is priced at $42 per share. Your 8.1 million shares are worth $340.2 million at opening. Media coverage is already massive. CNBC, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal all covering it. The Phoenix is rising, boss. I smiled at the phone. What's so funny? Derek asked. Hot date texting you. Something like that. Come on, who is it? Maybe we know him. Or her. We don't judge. Just work stuff. Work stuff. He laughed. What kind of work emergency happens at a bookstore? Someone returned a damaged book. The table laughed again. 9:59 a.m. I glanced up at the restaurant's television mounted above the bar. It was tuned to CNBC, the sound muted, closed captions scrolling across the bottom. The anchors were at their desk, papers shuffling, preparing for the market open. 10 a.m. The opening bell rang on the screen. The Nasdaq ticker began scrolling with the day's new listings. And then I saw it, PNX. My company's ticker symbol, debuting at $42.50, already up from the opening price. Derek was in the middle of another story about his startup when the TV caught Jennifer's attention. Oh look, she said. Some tech company is going public today. Phoenix something. Phoenix Digital Solutions, I said quietly. Yeah, that's it. Says here the founder is. She stopped mid-sentence, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth. The CNBC anchors were excited, their captions scrolling rapidly. Phoenix Digital Solutions debuts strong, cybersecurity AI platform. Founder Sarah Mitchell, 29, now worth $340 million. One of the youngest female tech CEOs to take a company public. Silicon Valley darling. MIT dropout who built empire from dorm room. The table had gone completely silent. On screen they were showing a photo of me, not in jeans and a white shirt but in a tailored business suit speaking at a tech conference 6 months ago. My hair was different, styled professionally. I was holding a microphone, addressing an audience of thousands. That's. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. That's you. Every head turned to stare at me. That can't be right, Derek said, grabbing his phone. Sarah works at a bookstore. This is some kind of mistake. Maybe it's a different Sarah Mitchell. But he was already Googling, his face going pale as results populated his screen. Mom looked like she might faint. Sarah? What is this? I set down my coffee cup carefully. That's my company, Phoenix Digital Solutions. We develop AI-driven cybersecurity software for enterprise clients. We launched 7 years ago, went through 4 rounds of funding, grew to 340 employees, and hit $89 million in revenue last year. I checked my phone. 10 minutes ago, we're publicly traded on the NASDAQ. You could have heard a pin drop. But you work at a bookstore, Mom said weakly. I own a bookstore. Cornerstone Books in Cambridge. I bought it 4 years ago when the previous owner was retiring. It's more of a passion project than a business. My actual work is Phoenix Digital Solutions. Derek was shaking his head, scrolling frantically through his phone. This is insane. There are articles about you. Forbes, TechCrunch, Wired. You were on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. 3 years ago. How did we not know this? You never asked. You all assumed I was a retail employee because that's what you wanted to believe. It was easier than considering that I might have built something significant. Jennifer had pulled up my company's website on her phone. You're the CEO. The founder and CEO. There are pictures of you everywhere. Speaking at conferences. Meeting with. Is that the Microsoft CEO? Yes. We partnered with Microsoft on a security integration project last year. 18-month contract worth $47 million. My father had his reading glasses on, staring at his own phone. The Wall Street Journal is calling you one of the most promising young tech entrepreneurs in America. There's an entire profile about how you dropped out of MIT to start your company. I didn't drop out. I graduated early. 3 years instead of 4. Double major in computer science and business. I started Phoenix in my senior year, got into Y Combinator 6 months after graduation. Y Combinator? Aunt Carol looked confused. It's a startup accelerator program, Todd explained, his voice stunned. It's incredibly selective. Companies like Airbnb and Dropbox came out of Y Combinator. Sarah, this is extraordinary. Thank you. Derek was still scrolling, his expression shifting from shock to something that looked like anger. You've raised over $60 million in venture capital. You have investors from Sequoia, Andreessen Horowitz, Kleiner Perkins. These are the biggest names in Silicon Valley. 63 million actually. Across 4 funding rounds. Series A through D. The terms got better with each round as our valuation increased. Mom's hands were trembling. Why didn't you tell us? I tried. Do you remember 5 years ago at Thanksgiving? I mentioned I was working on a software project. Derek told me it sounded like a waste of time and I should focus on getting a real job. Derek's face flushed. I don't remember that. I do. And 3 years ago at Christmas I mentioned I'd hired my 10th employee. Jennifer said it was cute that I was playing businesswoman but I should think about my future. Her exact words, playing businesswoman. Jennifer looked down at her plate. 2 years ago at Dad's birthday I tried to explain what Phoenix did. You all started talking over me about Derek's latest startup idea. I stopped trying after that. The restaurant manager, Marcus, appeared at our table. Ms. Mitchell, congratulations on the IPO. I saw it on Cnbc. Incredible achievement. Everything okay over here? The table stared at him. You know her? Mom asked. Of course. Sarah was one of my first investors when I was expanding the restaurant. She's been a friend and mentor for years. She introduced me to half my current investor network. He turned to me. Your champagne is on the house today. The 2008 Dom Perignon you like. Celebrate properly. Thank you, Marcus. After he left, the silence at the table was deafening. Finally, Derek found his voice. You invested in this restaurant? Along with 3 others in Boston. Marcus is a brilliant restaurateur. It was a smart investment. I've made 4x my money back so far. My phone buzzed. Amanda, stock up to $48. Your stake is now worth $388 million. Media requests coming in. Bloomberg wants an exclusive. So does CNBC. How do you want to handle? I typed back, block off the afternoon. I'll do CNBC at 2 p.m. Bloomberg tomorrow morning. Send my regrets to the others for now. I looked up to find everyone still staring at me. I have to ask, I said, pulling out my own phone. Derek, did you submit a funding proposal to Mitchell Ventures last month? His face went white. How do you know about that? Because I own Mitchell Ventures. It's my personal investment firm. I fund startups and early-stage companies. Your proposal came across my desk 3 weeks ago. You own Mitchell Ventures? I do. I started it 2 years ago to invest in founders who remind me of myself. People who are underestimated, overlooked, working on interesting problems without traditional support. What did you think of my proposal? His voice was barely audible. I pulled up the file on my phone. Your startup, TechStream Solutions. Social media analytics platform. You're asking for $2 million for 15% equity, valuing your company at $13 million. Right. And my investment team's assessment was that the market is oversaturated, your competitive advantage is unclear, and your financial projections are unrealistic. You're predicting $10 million in revenue in year 2 with no clear customer acquisition strategy. You have no product market fit data, no pilot customers, and no technical team beyond yourself. The table was silent. We passed on the investment. The rejection letter went out 2 weeks ago. Derek looked like he'd been slapped. You rejected my company? My team did, yes. The analysis was sound. Derek, you've been working on startups for 10 years. You've never successfully launched one. You have no track record of execution, and this proposal showed the same pattern. Big ideas without the infrastructure to execute them. That's not fair. You don't understand my vision. I understand it perfectly. It's the same vision every entrepreneur has. The belief that their idea is revolutionary. But vision without execution is just daydreaming. And your track record shows you're much better at the vision part than the execution part. Jennifer spoke up, her voice shaking. Sarah, you've been secretly running a multimillion-dollar company while we all thought you were working retail. You let us mock you, dismiss you, treat you like you were unsuccessful. Why? Because it was easier than fighting for your respect. You'd all decided who I was. The disappointing daughter who couldn't get her life together. Fighting that narrative required energy I needed for building my company. So I let you believe what you wanted while I built something real. Mom was crying now. We've been terrible to you. All these years we've been so terrible. You've been dismissive. There's a difference. You didn't actively hurt me. You just didn't see me. Dad cleared his throat. Sarah, what you've built is remarkable. I don't have words. I'm proud of you. We're all proud of you. Are you proud of me or are you proud of the IPO? Because I've been the same person for the past 7 years. I've been building Phoenix, raising capital, landing major clients, speaking at conferences. The only thing that changed today is that my success became public and impossible to ignore. That's not fair, Derek protested. Isn't it? 3 hours ago you were mocking me for working retail. Now that you know I'm worth $340 million, suddenly you're interested in my life. That's not respect. That's opportunism. Jennifer set down her fork. What do you want from us, Sarah? An apology? Acknowledgement? Tell us what you need. I don't need anything from you. I built a successful company without family support, without encouragement, without anyone believing in me. I don't need your validation now that my success is public. But we're family, Mom said. We should be celebrating together. We could have been celebrating for the past 7 years. Every milestone, every funding round, every major client win. Those were all moments you could have been part of if you'd bothered to ask about my life beyond surface-level pleasantries. My phone was buzzing constantly now. Messages from investors, congratulations from fellow entrepreneurs, interview requests from major media outlets. My company's stock was climbing, my net worth increasing by the minute. I need to leave, I said, standing up. I have a Cnbc interview in a few hours and I need to prepare. Happy birthday, Mom. I'm glad you had a nice celebration. Sarah, wait. Dad reached for my arm. I'm not angry. I'm just done pretending to be less than I am to make you comfortable. You wanted a daughter who fit your understanding of success. I'm not that daughter. I'm the one who dropped out of MIT, started a company, failed multiple times, learned from those failures, and built something that's now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I did it all while you thought I was scanning books at a cash register. I pulled out my wallet and placed $500 bills on the table. This should cover my portion of brunch. The champagne Marcus is sending is about $4,000 a bottle. Enjoy it. Derek's eyes widened. $4,000? It's a celebration. You should celebrate properly. I walked toward the exit, aware that every eye in the private dining room was following me. Sarah. Jennifer called out. Can we talk? Really talk? Not today but soon. I paused at the door. Maybe. But if we do, it needs to be real. Not you wanting access to my network or investment capital. Not you trying to repair your image. Real curiosity about who I actually am and what I've built. I want that. I really do. Then call me. My number hasn't changed. It's the same one I've had for 10 years. None of you have called it unless you needed something. I left the restaurant and walked out into the bright October morning. Boston stretched out before me, the city where I'd built my empire in silence while my family thought I was barely surviving. My phone rang. David. Sarah, the stock hit $52. You're now worth over $421 million. The IPO is being called one of the strongest tech debuts of the year. How does it feel? Surreal. I just told my family about Phoenix. How'd that go? About as well as expected. Shock, disbelief, some embarrassment. My brother tried to process being rejected for funding by his little sister who he thought worked retail. David laughed. That must have been satisfying. Less than you'd think. Mostly it just felt sad. 7 years of my life they knew nothing about. Their loss. Listen, we need to talk about the media strategy. You're about to become very public. The days of operating in stealth mode are over. Everyone's going to want a piece of the young female CEO who just took a cybersecurity company public. You ready for that? I have to be. That's my CEO. Car's picking you up in 30 minutes to prep for Cnbc. Wear the navy suit, not the black one. Navy reads better on camera. After hanging up, I stood on the sidewalk watching people rush past to their Sunday brunches and family gatherings. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that the woman standing beside them had just become one of the wealthiest young entrepreneurs in America. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jennifer. I saved your number but never used it. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about a lot of things. When you're ready to talk, I'm here. Congratulations on everything you've built. You're incredible. Another text, this one from Dad. Your mother and I would like to take you to dinner. No family, just us. We want to understand your life, your company, your journey. We've missed out on so much. Can we start over? Please. And finally, one from Derek. You were right about my proposal. I've been chasing ideas without building foundations. I don't know if you'd consider it, but I'd like to learn from you. Not as someone looking for investment, but as your brother who finally realizes his little sister is the most successful person in the family. I'm proud of you, Sarah. I should have said that years ago. I stood there reading the messages, feeling the shift happening in real time. My family was finally seeing me. Not because I'd changed, but because my success had become too large to ignore. The question was, did I want to let them in now that they were ready to see me? My car pulled up. A black Tesla Model S with my company's logo discreetly displayed on the door. My driver, Patricia, smiled as she opened the door. Congratulations, Ms. Mitchell. I heard about the IPO on the radio. They're calling it historic. Thank you, Patricia. Where to? Office or home? Office. I need to prepare for the interview. And Patricia? Can you make a stop first? Of course. Where? Cornerstone Books. I want to check in on the store. She smiled knowingly. The bookstore that isn't just a bookstore? Exactly.